On July 4, 1974, a gigantic American ship stopped over an empty patch of the North Pacific. Soviet vessels watched from nearby. The Americans said they were testing equipment to mine rocks from the ocean floor. That was a lie. 3 miles beneath them lay a Soviet ballistic-missile submarine, its nuclear weapons, its secret technology, and the remains of its crew. And the ship above it was a purpose-built CIA machine, designed to steal the wreck without Moscow ever knowing. This was Project Azorian, part engineering miracle, part intelligence gamble, and, according to the US government's own classified assessment, an illegal attempt to take Soviet property. The story began in February 1968, when K-129 left its base on the Kamchatka Peninsula for a patrol across the Pacific. It carried nuclear-armed ballistic missiles and some of the Soviet Navy's most sensitive equipment. Then it missed a scheduled radio check. Moscow called again. Nothing. The Soviet Union launched a massive search, but its ships were looking in the wrong area. Weeks later, the operation ended. K-129 and everyone aboard were presumed lost. The Americans, however, had heard something. Underwater acoustic stations, built to detect nuclear tests, recorded an unusual event in the Pacific. Analysts narrowed the location, and the specially equipped submarine USS Halibut was sent to investigate. It found K-129 roughly 16,500 feet below the surface. The cause of the disaster remains disputed. One reconstruction blames missile engines igniting inside the submarine. Another points to seawater entering through the snorkel system, triggering electrical failures and explosions. What mattered to Washington was not how K-129 died, but what had died with it. Inside the wreck could be Soviet code machines, cryptographic documents, a nuclear warhead, an SS-N-5 missile, sonar equipment, and fire control systems. American intelligence had never physically examined some of these objects. The submarine was a Cold War jackpot sitting unguarded on the ocean floor. There was one problem: no one had ever lifted anything remotely like it from that depth. The section targeted by the CIA was about 132 feet long and weighed roughly 1,750 tons. Internal estimates put the chance of success somewhere between 20 and 40%. A State Department assessment also stated the obvious: the submarine still belonged to the Soviet Union, and taking it would be illegal. Yet the project moved forward. Richard Nixon approved the mission after years of planning, despite the danger of destroying detente or provoking a confrontation at sea, and secrecy was already becoming fragile. At one White House meeting, CIA Director William Colby suggested that of the approximately 1,800 people who knew about the project, 1,700 could later be told it had failed. To hide a ship this large, the CIA needed a lie even larger. That lie was Howard Hughes. The reclusive billionaire supposedly wanted to mine manganese nodules from the deepest parts of the ocean. Under that cover, contractors built the Hughes Glomar Explorer, a huge industrial vessel with a drilling derrick, a computer-controlled positioning system, and a hidden opening through its center called a moon pool. Below the ship was an enormous mechanical capture vehicle. The crew would lower it by connecting 60-foot sections of steel pipe one after another, until the claw reached the wreck. It would seize the submarine, lift it into the moon pool, and close the doors beneath it. From the outside, nothing would be visible, not to passing ships, aircraft, or reconnaissance satellites. The cover was so detailed that the CIA even loaded the capture vehicle from a submerged barge. Publicity about Hughes and deep-sea mining made the operation look commercial. The fake business was hiding in plain sight. Glomar Explorer reached the site on July 4th. Nearby Soviet ships inspected the strange vessel, but did not interfere. They could see the Americans lowering pipe into the ocean. They could not see the claw descending toward their missing submarine. For days, the crew added pipe, fighting currents and mechanical problems. The capture vehicle reached the bottom, positioned itself around the wreck, and closed its massive arms. Then the lift began. Against the odds, K-129 rose from the seabed. But after the wreck had climbed more than 6,000 feet, several grabber arms failed. Nearly 100 feet of submarine broke away and fell through the opening. The missile section and much of the hoped-for intelligence disappeared back into the darkness. The crew could do nothing except continue lifting what remained. Inside the recovered bow section, the Americans found the bodies of 6 Soviet submariners. The same operation created to steal their vessel now paused to give them a formal military burial at sea. A film of that ceremony was later given to Russia. Exactly what intelligence the CIA recovered remains partly classified. The agency admits that Azorian failed to meet its full objectives, while still calling it one of the greatest intelligence coups of the Cold War. That contradiction has never fully disappeared. A second mission was planned, but the operation was destroyed by something far less sophisticated than Soviet counterintelligence: a burglary. Thieves had stolen documents from a Hughes office in Los Angeles, including material connecting the billionaire, the CIA, and Glomar Explorer. The attempt to recover those papers drew police and media attention. By early 1975, journalists were publishing the story. The Soviets began guarding the wreck site, making another recovery impossible. When reporters demanded answers, the government refused to confirm or deny the operation. That phrase became known as the Glomar response, and agencies still use versions of it today, when even admitting that records exist could reveal a secret. So, was Project Azorian a success? The CIA built technology that many engineers believed was impossible. It located a submarine the Soviet Union could not find and lifted part of it from 3 miles down while Soviet ships watched. But most of the target fell back to the bottom. The intelligence payoff remains uncertain, and the mission violated the ownership rights the United States privately acknowledged. An engineering triumph? Absolutely. An intelligence victory? Maybe. But was it also a state-sponsored robbery of a military grave? That answer depends on which side of the ocean you are standing on.